Hey, it's Mike Brennan. We're doing another one of our MITech TV shows, and back from vacation. I took last Monday off to recover from vacation. My friends will understand why. And so what we have with us today is Dan Sparrow. He's co-founder of HatchAPlan Michigan. And as a disclaimer, Dan and his wife Connie are also working with me on the Hero Project, which is more cannabis related. Won't be talking about that necessarily on this show, but they have a great company that works with a lot of not only cannabis companies and to get them started in the business, but other companies as well. Right, Dan?
Yes, sir. We do a lot with small businesses and grant writing.
Okay, let's talk about let's start with that point. Overview of Sparrow, according to your notes. Who you are, what you do, just so I make sure that the audience understands.
Basically, we're a dream to ribbon cutting firm. We do all the compliance and all the licensing and much, much more. We have a vast network that we can make sure everybody gets filled into the right spots and participate in the good sectors of the cannabis space.
Stand by 1 second. In my haste, I forgot. Sorry about that. So we'll still get you on there on the rest of the show. So I had to get that record going. One of those days where I'm kind of behind the eight ball. All right, so let's continue with the conversation then. You business development services, that sort of thing. Would that be the way to describe it?
Yeah, pretty much. People just come to us with ideas a lot of times. But we also have people come that are fully prepared that just need a little bit of licensing help. Like I said, we just have a vast network of people that can definitely handle all the needs and all the requirements in this very regulated industry.
Okay. Operational compliance expertise. Why don't you define that, what that is?
Well, I personally have been in manufacturing for 30 years. I've done a lot of process engineering type work in my field. My partner, my wife, Connie Maxim Sparrow, has done many, many things at the federal, state, and local level, from being director of Homeland Security for Region 6 here in Michigan, to being the director of what's the word I'm looking for? The mannequins, the simulation at the Sekia Center there in Grand Rapids for Michigan State College of Human Medicine. She's also accredited hospitals, and so we're just really good in those areas. Government speaks well to government.
All right, and certainly I think we can all speak to anybody that's been an entrepreneur or tried to start a business of any kind can talk about the difficulty in scaling up the business, particularly in an economy that, gosh, has been yo-yoing back and forth, and it's just really hard to plan things, right?
Yeah, initially when Sparrow Consulting first started out, we were primarily helping caregivers get into the economy. And so you have to take caregivers that had a max of 72 plants and get them prepared for upwards of 1,500 or 3,000 or 4,500, way back in the medical field when we first got going on that. It's a little different in the adult use now, but yeah, helping people scale up, just everything from labor to the amount of energy that it's going to need, to just basic farming skills. I mean, if you have 72 plants and you have 3,000 plants, that's exponentially more work put into that.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned being on a couple of different shows. One of them is 420 Post that we do on Wednesdays, which is focused on cannabis businesses. Another one is the iHemp Hour on Thursdays at noon for the industrial hemp folks. I'm a city boy. I'm not a farmer, and I've discovered, what looked like pretty simple. You throw the plant in the ground, right? You harvest the plant, you make money. No, that's not how it works, is it?
Not at all. There is a lot of intricacies in this. I mean, from what people want to grow in, for instance, from soil to cocoa to aqua to now there's aeroponics. So even just the rudimentary, fundamental basis of this, all you already have four options to go from at that point. And then you get into lighting, and there's, I'm not going to say a million, but there is well over 100 options for lighting. And that's just basic. And then you're not talking about the HVAC or CO2 or any of the fertigation systems that would feed the plants.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. Certainly, the cannabis space for business is booming right now. Depending on who you talk to, and one of our experts was Andrew Brisboe, who is the director of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency, and he predicted on my 420 Post show a month or so ago that we would be doing close to $2 billion in adult use sales this year. And it could be more, could be less. It's hard to say at this point. So, I mean, compared to the year before, that's doubling, and it probably will double again next year. So, this is an interesting time. If someone wants to get into this business, I mean, you can help them do that, right?
Absolutely. For anybody that is interested in pursuing in this economy, you can Google Sparrow Consulting, and we also have a Facebook page and Messenger as well. But we're not hard to find, and I ask anybody who has any real interest to at least reach out. The initial consult is absolutely free of charge.
Yeah, and so you're working with a number of companies right now. I've lost track of how many, but quite a few, right?
Yeah, we never stop working for even our past clients. They still call us up with questions and whatnots, and we have that support system in place. But Sparrow Consulting is well over 200 licenses in 8 states currently. So we've seen this economy in many, many locations, and we just like to see all of our clients be very successful. I would say 95% of our clients are operational at this point, with the other 5% just pending building out and getting final inspections.
What are some of the secrets to success in the adult use legal cannabis marketplace? If you're, I mean, a lot of people get my misconception being a city boy was not much to it, and I've discovered there's a lot to it. Is that one of the big misconceptions, that it's pretty simple and it's really not?
It is not simple. And as you quoted, all of those dollars that are generated by cannabis, it's a highly regulated and highly taxed economy as well. So the margins aren't as great as they would be in other businesses due to those things. Um, Other than that, it's retail. Retail is the key. Retail shops in the end will control the economy like they have in states, our predecessors, California, Colorado, Oregon, the states that were early on this. Retail ultimately dictates the economy. As far as being difficult, that's just really how you want to go about the advertising, which is somewhat tricky. I see a lot of people asking for brand ambassadors as of late too. So if someone would like to enjoy participating down that avenue, it's out there and available for people. So there's a lot of places to make money in the cannabis space without ever growing, selling, or using the plant.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the processing, you've got the security aspect, whether it's physical security or secured transport, because the state requires that when you're moving cannabis product around, that it be in a secure transport environment. People may not be aware of that. Uh, we have mutual friends that just dabble in cannabis real estate. It's like any other business. There's lots of things. Cannabis attorneys, cannabis CPAs, they're all out there, right?
Yes, sir. And we refer to that sector of the economy as ancillary. And that's what Sparrow Consulting is as well. We're an ancillary business. But I can also let everybody know that the banks will shut your account down if they find out that you're doing cannabis. Um, Sorry about the dog. But yeah, the banking's also something that gets very hairy, even for the ancillary people.
Yeah, I know there's talk of, well, we should back up a little bit, I guess. Cannabis still on the federal level remains a Schedule One drug, along with heroin and cocaine and a few other things like that. And Chuck Schumer, for the majority leader in the U.S. Senate, has been talking about, and in fact, in the last Congress did introduce a bill that would have descheduled it, which would have created a whole new situation for the bigger companies like banks. Banks that are federally regulated are very leery about going into cannabis because they're afraid they're going to lose their license. Now, there are some banks out there, very small ones tend to be, that are, and credit unions that are now opening their doors, as it were, to cannabis banking, but it's still not that many of them yet, right, Dan?
No, in my personal opinion, I'm partial to Dart Bank, but Dart is by far the premier bank in Michigan. And there's a handful of smaller state banks that are doing it as well. Live Life is one of them. I know up in Traverse City, I think Honor Bank is starting to get into the cannabis space as well. So you just got to find the small state sanctioned banks. But the other thing too is this is heavy compliant. And if those banks aren't doing what we need to do for the financial compliance of this, when you get audited by the MRA, you're going to have a whole new problem. And Dart Bank has been set up from beginning to end to be successful and help all of their clients out.
Yeah, okay. And I guess we can bring in Hero real briefly here towards the end. One of the requirements of having an MRA license, for at least for dispensaries, is to have a social equity component where you're giving back to the community that's been the hardest hit by all the cannabis rules and laws and jail time and all that jazz. But what we've done is we've partnered with a number of folks to develop something called the Hero Project, which would take a portion of the sales from both the wholesale and the retail side and put that into a 501c3 that we've helped create and that Dan and Connie manage as the fiduciaries. And then that money would be then, most of that money, 75% of that, would go to veterans charities, which would then comply with the social equity component of the MRA license. Yes, I know it sounds complicated, but essentially it means the cannabis industry are going to be supporting veterans, or at least the ones that work with us, going forward. So I think that's pretty interesting and an innovative way for dispensaries and others to get involved and meet that MRA requirement on social equity. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. We've been a huge proponent for the social equity piece. We've seen a lot of people really, really do it wrongly. And we seen this coming, and we started the Canna Social Equity Fund 3 years ago. And it's quite the undertaking to finally get a 501c3 in the cannabis space. And we are official, and we are happy to receive all the Hero dollars into the fund to get them paid down. The other reason why we even set this up is because everybody knows that if monies get generated and given to the local municipalities in their general coffers, we already know that those dollars, one for one, aren't coming back out. And so we took the initiative to really show government and the country how cannabis can really affect and make some changes in people's lives.
All right, well, we're running out of time, so real quick, how do folks reach out to you if they want to work with Sparrow Consulting?
Just Google Sparrow Consulting, or like I said, there's a Facebook page. We would love to hear from everybody.
Okay, and it's HatchAPlan Michigan MI.com is one of the websites they can go to, right?
I believe so. I typically just type in Sparrow Consulting and you'll get right there. It's spelled just like the bird.
All right, sounds great. Well, that's Dan Sparrow from Sparrow Consulting, and we want to thank you for being on the show today. And we got a couple other guests coming in shortly that we'll be introducing. The rest of the show is going to be focused on cybersecurity. And so thanks very much for joining us today, Dan.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Have a great week.
You too. All right, so the next up out of the bullpen, as it were, I can see the dashboard across the top of my screen. Others can't see it. We have Doug Miller from Northern Michigan University, and he's, I think, the director of the Upper Peninsula Cybersecurity Institute. Did I get that right?
You sure did, Mike. Thank you so much for having.
Sure. Okay. And so let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing up there. You've got, well, I'll let you explain it. It'd probably be better than me trying to define it. So go ahead, take it away.
Sounds good. I appreciate the time, Mike, for sure. The Upper Peninsula Cybersecurity Institute is a relatively new entity here at Northern Michigan University in Marquette. And we are, the Institute really has three main missions. We provide industry recognized certification courses in cybersecurity and cyber enablers. We have a K-12 education kind of outreach mission. So we try to provide some assistance to our great K-12 teachers that are out there trying to incorporate computer science, cybersecurity topics into the high school curriculum and middle school curriculum. And then we have kind of a general community outreach and awareness mission to promote safe cyber hygiene just for the citizens of the Upper Peninsula and beyond. So we're really excited about doing that. Northern Michigan has a great academic program that's been going for about 5 or 6 years now in information assurance and cyber defense. We've got about 40 to 60 students that are enrolled in that curriculum. So we, in addition to standing alone and offering the certification courses as part of the Institute, we feel that our relationship on the academic side for the academic degrees is a really good, a fairly potent cybersecurity punch. They get not only the 4-year degree, but they also have the opportunity to get certifications in CompTIA Security Plus or Cisco CCNA, those types of security credentialed courses. Oop, Mike, I think you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry about that.
That's usually me, Mike.
Yes. Well, I thought I was muting our next guest because she was in the bullpen, and I ended up clicking on the wrong button. So there are something like 7,000 or so jobs open for cybersecurity here in the state of Michigan alone, right?
Yeah, you go, it's just a crazy amount of unfilled jobs out there. So if you go to, we pull those statistics from cyberseek.org, which is a great compilation of cybersecurity jobs out there in the United States. And then you can drill down into specific states, and pretty much any day of the week or month that you go to that site, you'll find that there's about 7,000 plus or minus 200 or so unfilled cybersecurity jobs in the state of Michigan.
Okay. And now another thing that you guys are doing is in automotive cybersecurity training. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah, we're really excited about this part of our curriculum and our certification programs. We've partnered with Grimm LLC, which is a great company that has a presence down in the Ann Arbor area. They are very heavily into automotive cybersecurity. They've been a great industry partner for the Institute since even before we actually opened up. They have built us an automotive hacking dashboard. So it's basically took the dashboard out of a 2018 vehicle, wired it up, and it allows us to come in with our students and work on penetration testing and kind of giving them the skills and experience to help try and harden up those systems a little bit as part of their career choice.
And how long have you been doing that then? Is that just a recent development or?
Just recent. We actually, like with a lot of things, I'll blame some of the delay on the pandemic. We actually took possession of our system back in December and could not figure out a way to get them safely up here or to us safely go down there for a number of months. And so we just finally were able to get the Grimm team up here a few weeks ago to do our actual in-person training. So that the timing was actually pretty good because we did that a couple weeks ago, and then the week after that we sent a number of our students down to the Cyber Auto Challenge down in Warren. So actually the timing worked out pretty good.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed on the pandemic situation, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
and certainly, folks, I should mention that you guys are in Marquette. Sometimes I'm sure there's some confusion with the other college that's in Houghton, right?
Yeah, yeah, our great partners to the northwest for sure, Michigan Tech. Great school, university up there as well. We've been working with them or trying to work with them a little bit on helping to get the word out. Look, cybersecurity is a team sport. There's so many unfilled jobs out there, and it's such a critical need that we need everybody pumping out as many cybersecurity professionals as we can to try and make a dent into this.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to your cybersecurity program, now how long has that actually been around? It's fairly new as well, right?
Yeah, the on the academic side, Mike, we've had the program going for about 5 or 6 years now here at Northern. So the 4-year associate's degree or the 4-year bachelor's degree. Right. The institute itself has been open for about a year and a half. So we're on the industry certification side, the CompTIA, the CCNA, EC Council side. We've been going for about a year and a half. Quite honestly, it's been a bit of a challenge, but given that we were set up for remote training by the very nature of what we wanted to do, we've been actually able to hold, we've had 2 Security Plus courses, a few certified ethical hacker courses, a couple intro to cybersecurity courses that we've been able to run even through the pandemic. So we've put about 30 or 40 students through the Institute, which is actually not too bad for the first year and a half during a pandemic, I don't think.
Sure. Is there a maximum number of students you could deal with at any given time?
Well, I guess so. There's always kind of an instructor to student ratio that you probably want to stay fairly close with to, but the vision from the NMU leadership up here has always been pretty great in that we wanted to be able to offer these courses remotely for students throughout the UP. So you don't have to physically be in person here to take the courses. Just on in-person class size, I've got room for about 10 or 15 people at a time in my classroom. But the number of folks that we can, get out and reach virtually is, significantly larger.
Sure.
I hope we run into that boundary here soon.
Yes. Do you have a lot of students that have indicated they want to participate? And so in other words, do you have a waiting list or anything like that?
We don't have a waiting list right now, but we're constantly getting inquiries about when our next courses are starting, getting people signed up, trying to generate interest in the Governor's Cyber Challenge and the Cyber Patriot stuff, all the great stuff that Tamara Shoemaker does downstate. So we try and help facilitate all of those things. And we realize a lot with the K-12 side that some of that is planting seeds. We want to make sure that the kids, even up here in the rural Upper Peninsula of Michigan, have the opportunity if they are interested in this as a career choice.
Speaking of which, the physical in-class students versus the remote students, are they largely folks from the UP, or are you drawing from downstate or other states?
We right now, Mike, most of it has been the UP, but we have actually had a few people from other states. There's one of the companies up here has got some employees over in Wisconsin and out in Colorado. They've actually been in on some of our courses as well. We've had a few folks from downstate from some of the other cyber hubs that are on the Michigan cyber range. So it's actually it's a pretty good setup.
All right. And going forward, obviously we have a lot of issues. We don't know with the Delta variant on the pandemic what that's going to do. We're all keeping our fingers crossed that folks will be at least getting vaccinated, because it seems like the pandemic right now is, you got about 70% of the country that's been vaccinated, but a lot of folks that haven't, and we don't know how that's going to play out this fall. So how are you sort of making contingency plans in case that, forces you to not have in-class students again, or what?
Yeah. again, planning for the worst, hoping for the best, for sure. If people can make it and are allowed to come in and can do so safely for in-person classes, that's always, quite honestly, a great option. There's just some things that are a little bit easier when you're in person, especially if you're talking the physical systems with the auto hacking dashboard, or doing stuff with K-12 kids and trying to get them on Linux machines and inventor kits and all those types of fun things. But the reality is, for a lot of our students that are career changers, or high school graduates, or folks that are already in the business trying to come back and get an additional upgraded certification or renew their certification, virtual is just fine. I mean, they've made a lot of great progress on from Cisco with their packet tracer to simulate the network, and CompTIA, the labs that they have that support the academic material is makes it really actually pretty easy to do most of that instruction virtual.
All right. Well, we're coming down towards the end of your segment here, so I know folks probably want to get more information about how they can learn more or participate in your program. How do they do that?
Well, we've got a great website now off of the nmu.edu page. And we have got a pretty good social media presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as well. So all of those options are available. We're really trying to get the word out there, and shoot us an email, and we'll get back with you.
All right. Thanks, Doug Miller, the director of the Upper Peninsula Cyber Institute at Northern Michigan University. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great day.
Hey, you too. Now we're going to bring in Richard Stiennon, and Richard's a longtime guest on the show. He and I even wrote a book together 10 years ago. Hard to believe, right, Richard? And so one of the things that piqued my curiosity that I wanted Richard to address is some of the changes that Apple is making with the iPhone. One of them really caught my attention, since I'm a privacy advocate, is this new software that they're going to be coming out with, that they can look at your photographs and see if you have any child abuse photographs in there, or if you fall into the child abuse database, and they will alert authorities, or some variation thereof. Right, Richard?
That's how it's working, Mike. Yeah, privacy advocates around the world are very upset with Apple, and have come out, 2,500 or 5,000 have signed a letter to them, etc. But when you dig into it, I think most people go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So the first thing is that they introduce new parental controls. So you can block your children from sending inappropriate images, right? So totally makes sense. No reason your child should be sexting, essentially, what that is. But the other measure, as you mentioned, is kind of, they don't describe it very well, but apparently they're going to search any of your photos that end up in iCloud. So if you do the automatic backup and store your photos in iCloud, they've instituted a way to determine if any of those photos showed up in this list maintained by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Makes you wonder, I mean, that in the security world, the most difficult problem is capturing all bad stuff and then identifying it. So obviously the images that have been collected and identified as, completely inappropriate, and let's be clear here, we are talking about child sex pornography images. Right. Those images, some poor worker at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has to look at them and determine, yep, this is definitely inappropriate and illegal in practically every country in the world. Therefore, we're going to, tag them as inappropriate. We're going to share those images with Apple. Apple has a unique way to scan the image and kind of fingerprinted it. So unique fingerprint, much like how a digital fingerprint device works on your phone or your computer, right? It doesn't actually store the fingerprint. It stores enough metadata from it and random pixels, etc., that identify it conclusively, so that the image, doesn't the fingerprint doesn't change if it's shrunk or modified or somebody put some text on it, stuff like that. But they're going to apply that on your phone or your iPad. And it sounds like on the new version of Mac OS as well. And then when you upload it, it'll be flagged, and Apple will be able to look at it and say, yep, that's definitely a bad image. Supposedly a single instance of this, which could happen if a hacker uploads an image for you, or you accidentally have an image, somebody sends you an image and it ends up in your iCloud, so that you don't end up in a lot of legal trouble. But if you have multiple images, like the people who get turned on by those images do, then you'll be flagged and you're reported to this national nonprofit, right? So it's set up by Congress, but it's not a government agency. But then they could further, if they had cause for action, then they could further it on to presumably the FBI. So significant problems for people who share images. And my issue with this, aside from the invasion of privacy, right? So if somebody comes in your home and starts searching for bad stuff that you've done, regardless of the bad stuff you've done, it's still an invasion of privacy. So, and I think that's why the privacy advocates are up in arms over this. But because of the lack of 100% catch rates, they are never going to catch images that a child predator and abuser takes themselves, right? Until they become popular and are shared all over the place. Eventually they'll catch them that way. But if a child abuser is just storing all these images in iCloud, it won't catch the real baddies.
Okay. So since there's so many people that are upset about this and they've contacted Apple, I mean, has Apple made a response on this or said anything?
Yeah, they they pissed them off further because somebody leaked an internal memo that called them screeching privacy nuts or something like that, which I think you and I belong to that group.
Yep.
That wasn't very good optics for the world. And then on top of that, they've started to publish FAQs to answer your questions. So they're handling it through marketing and PR. I think, I think long term they're going to win this, this battle. I think they are doing what they can to stop this type of material in social media. Because unlike you and me, I don't know if you're a phone person, but we tend not to use our phones for everything in the world like younger kids do. So they will have an impact on the sharing over whatever platforms. You share those images to Facebook, but then Facebook's got a program to catch them and take them down and report the people who share them. So it'll have, some beneficial result. It's an example of Apple doing what they can with the technology they have without totally violating everybody's privacy.
So what prompted this change from Apple? Why did they decide to do this? Is this something they decided internally, or did they get a lot of folks saying, gosh, you should do something about this, Apple? Or where did this come from?
Yeah, I think the people, ever since the elections, there's been a lot of pressure from the government against the big platforms. So Google and Twitter, of course, and Facebook. And I think Apple's trying to be proactive and take a stance and demonstrate that they're doing something, kind of to avoid that, regulatory overlook, right? Because, you could say that they are liable if some horrible incident happens, and Apple could have detected this with the technology they're rolling out.
Now, I know Android is not quite as focused like iPhone is Apple, whereas Android is a lot of different folks. Is there any similar thing going on with the Android folks?
No, there's nothing else going on. Now, mind you, any phone that law enforcement has an interest in, especially outside the United States, they just hack into and grab all your stuff, right? So there's quite an industry of spyware companies, legit, they have legitimate business models. They sell to law enforcement to catch just this thing, right? So human traffickers and terrorists. And unfortunately, many law enforcement agencies are not ethical, and they abuse those tools when they have them.
Well, certainly you would expect that outside of the United States. Are you also seeing that happening a lot inside the United States?
Yeah, because you can just go to the phone company and get somebody's calls, right? So we saw the pre-texting examples a few years ago, where people from Congress called up and pretended that they had a right to somebody's phone records, and that goes on all the time. There's legal means to do that. They can file, get a warrant to hack into somebody's phone and check everything that they've got, or turn on a phone that's been turned off. So there's, if people en masse expose all their private information, as we all do, government's going to be quick, and law enforcement's going to be quick to take advantage of that. Shortens their prosecution times, shortens their investigations. It's just a way of life. So, if you're engaged in anything you don't want the government to know about, don't put it on your phone. Which sounds, okay. I've had taxi drivers in Singapore tell me that exactly, but he was referring to Chinese facial recognition cameras in every street corner. But yeah, all that falls apart when what you want to do is, have a peaceful revolution, or in the form of an election of a new political party. You certainly don't want the government spying on you while you're engaged in that kind of pushback.
Yeah, you mentioned China. I saw a documentary on TV about a year ago about how they use facial recognition in China. And I haven't been to China in a long time, but it's everywhere. And I was amazed that, for instance, even like to go to an ATM machine to withdraw money, instead of putting in your code or using a fingerprint, they just look at your face, and that's your password. And I'm thinking, holy cow.
Yep. And then they give you a social score. So just like you can pretty quickly tell by looking at somebody's Twitter feed, what side of the aisle they sit on if they're a politician. It just recording all of that all the time, exactly where somebody stands politically.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the whole social media thing. I know certainly there's a lot of it, and I post news stories, but before I do, I always look at the source of the news story, and I'll go right to it and read it on the native website, as it were, before I post it, rather than just picking something up. But Facebook doesn't do that too much, and they're taking a lot of heat right now. Do you think that's going to prompt them to make changes in this area?
For sure. They are going to crack down, and it astounds me that everybody's wringing their hands over what to do about this social media problem. The answer is really, really simple. Do not allow anonymous accounts. If somebody is saying, yes, this is me, and I'm, supporting this QAnon conspiracy, they're a lot less likely to do so if everybody knows who they are and where they live, especially if the platform provider knows that. So on platforms where you have to completely identify who you are, like LinkedIn, you don't see that crap going on. Twitter, the people who have verified accounts, some of them, the politicians especially, do engage in crazy behavior, but you wouldn't have the masses of Russian trolls, right? Because they spin up millions of fake anonymous accounts and just spew from them. And if the accounts were verified, just like, if you want to sell a book on Amazon, you got to provide your driver's license. They have your credit card. You can't, put out, fake objectionable books, because Amazon will catch on to it and they know who you are and they'll just ban you.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So the Russian trolls, I mean, people probably laugh that off as, ho, it's not really true, but it is very true, right?
Sure, yeah, we indicted some of them.
And I know Biden brought that up, at least I think he did, when he had his meeting with Putin. That came up along with a lot of other things. But I don't think Putin's inclined to do much about it, is he? Or have you seen any change?
Nope, nope, no change at all. Um, I think Putin's calling Biden's bluff, if that's what it was, because Biden really drew a line in the sand. He kind of said the equivalent of nice gas pipeline you got there. It'd be really terrible if a cyber attack happened to it. And yet, on we go. More ransomware coming our way from Russia and sometimes Ukraine-based ransomware attackers.
In China sometimes as well, right?
Yeah, China, North Korea. Anybody who wants to make some money illicitly can get into the game.
Yeah. Well, for a while there, ransomware died back down after the summit. Has it sort of risen back up again? Are those?
Oh, yeah.
Has
Yep.
it?
Yep. The major groups just resurfaced, with new names, new infrastructure, new logos. We have, there's been some interesting news lately. So one of the big groups had an affiliate leak their, tools, techniques, and practices documents. They've got training documents, they've got checklists and how to engage in ransomware attacks. So somebody was disgruntled because they weren't getting a big enough piece of the ransoms, so they posted that online for free. So it's there will always be dissent in the ranks inside criminal organizations, and we're seeing that go on now. I actually, last time I was interviewed, I talked about harping back to the Barbary Coast and the pirates that plagued the Mediterranean for 400 or 500 years, right? So the Sultan in Turkey back then, controlled most of the northern coast of Africa. And the people in those countries, Morocco, Tunisia, would pay tribute to them, and they would get all their money from engaging in piracy. And over a couple hundred years, they captured and enslaved over 1 million Europeans, English, and Americans. So it was just a scourge. And then finally, Thomas Jefferson deployed what we had of a Navy in like 1816 or something like that. And that was, of course, the beginning of the Marines, because they landed and engaged in trying to form regime change in Tripoli. And ultimately, the resolution was, we brought out the big guns, right? We invaded them. But the resolution was that the United States would pay tribute to the Barbary Coast countries, and we did for about 30 years. In order for them not to kidnap or attack our shipping. So obviously the final result, I think, was when Madison was president, and he just went in and took everybody out and won the battle and put an end to it. So I like to point out that's a lesson to the world's leaders, is the only way to actually stop the type of piracy that Putin's engaged in is military. And I'm not sure anybody's got the stomach to do that, but Putin should think about it, or unless he's thinking, hey, I can do this for 200 years before anybody does anything about it.
Yeah, since Russia is a gas petroleum based economy, and that's really the only thing they got going for them.
Yep.
That European pipeline or all the other pipelines, they're sort of like tit for tat here. With the Colonial Pipeline going down, that would be a nice attack vector for the United States should they want to go that way, right?
Yeah. But of course, our pipelines are equally vulnerable to attack. And I think the difficulty with us attacking is that we don't want to reveal our secret cyber weapons, right? So we do develop 0 days and things that can't be detected as they cross a network. If we ever use them, then the Russians have them, right? Because they keep logs and they'll be able to see everything that happened. So it takes a while to put it all together because we have to reuse the Russians' own cyber weapons against them, so they don't learn anything new from the attack.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're running out of time in the segment. I know people will want to reach out to you. Richard, how do they do that? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, people don't seem to have a problem just Googling my name or my email address, but you can find me on LinkedIn. I publish my email address on LinkedIn. You just have to look under contacts, but it's Richard at IT-Harvest. And then you can find me and my book at itharvest.com, it-harvest.com.
The Security Yearbook 2021 edition.
Exactly.
All right, sounds great. Thanks very much for being on the show today. Now we're going to bring in Tamara Shoemaker.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Richard. Go ahead and unmute. Oh, she did unmute. Okay, cool. So Tamara has many titles, but one of them is she's the director of the Cyber Patriot program here in Michigan, which is aimed at young grade school kids, trying to get them interested in cyber professional careers. Is that correct, Tamara?
So we go from from elementary school all the way through high school. And so, we've been doing this summer we did do some interesting stuff in the elementary school, and it was a wonderful year for that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's teaching through competition. In the beginning, it's just awareness things, and the kids in K through 5 get to play video games and just have fun, and they're learning cybersecurity principles. They're learning how to protect themselves. And then we start in middle school, and in high school, then we do competitions, and they actually are competing with thousands of kids across the country on a monthly basis. From the security of their own place, it's all virtual. So when we had to all go all virtual, that was seamless to be able to do Cyber Patriot. A little more difficult than our summer camps than the regular season, and we had a pretty successful summer camp. We're only able to serve half the kids that we normally are able to serve, just because of all of the stress that our students and our teachers and just in general, they had a whole year of online teaching, and so that was difficult. We had less venues than we normally had, but we did have 9 venues across the state, and we had a couple of virtual ones as well. And so it was very successful of a season. And we are growing all the time. In fact, Cyber Patriot is growing all the time. And they have some new things happening with us, and we're pretty excited about the 14th season this year.
Okay. So now, is the summer program pretty much wrapping up now? And if so, what's next?
Yes, it is, thankfully. I mean, I love it. And I got to tell you that, being face to face with these kids, and especially these elementary kids, oh my gosh, they were so amazing, Mike. I was so surprised at the things they already know how to do, and all the things that they're inquisitive about. And so giving them the proper tools to do it safely was real important. And so I'm real happy to be doing it in that group, in that age group as well. And we'll be continuing to do more of that, as the years go by in the elementary, so we can kind of get them ready, because they're actually, again, I'm working with the middle school and high school kids all the time, and so I see what kind of skills they have. But I was surprised when we were working with 4th and 5th graders this year, and their skill set was equal to many of our high school kids. I mean, I was just couldn't believe it. And so they're truly monkeying with stuff. I mean, just like with my grandkids all the time, they're always pushing buttons, right? They're always exploring. And then they had a year here of virtual school. So they're used to this virtual, existence. And they're comfortable with it because it's not something strange to them, because they haven't been quite so long without it, right? Like we all had to kind of learn, and still are. Trying to find our mute button and trying to, make sure everything works right on our Teams meetings and our Zoom meetings and stuff. These kids are just naturals. And so being able to be working with them and teaching them these things about operating system and how to keep themselves, secure online, and how to do networks and secure their home networks, as well as, other things. It's real important we get to that, and we get to it right away. And as Doug up north was stating, the openings of jobs are that's not getting any smaller, right? And we just can't get enough kids in the pipeline, and so we must start earlier. And so it's fun to work with these kids.
Yeah, it's really a generational thing, because as you know, I'm also on the Internet Advisor on WJR, and that's more of a program for I have to be gentle how I say this, but since I'm a grandparent, for older people that really don't understand computers, you have Cal Carson and Gary Baker and Ed Riddell on that show, and then I come in and do news. But they always bring me in like 5 minutes early, so I sit there and listen to what's being said, and it's really basic stuff because the baby boomers didn't grow up with this technology, but the kids, as you say, it seems like each generation is so much smarter or technologically savvy than the previous generation, right?
Yeah, it's scary how much they are, right? And so part of the thing is we have to be really careful to keep up with them and make sure that we're giving them the tools that they need when they need them, not later, right? Not too late in their life so that they get into trouble. I mean, you guys were just talking about, the policies with the sexual problems that people are having with young people and things that they're oversharing and things that they're doing and could get them into some major trouble. They don't understand all of this. They don't they can use the technology, they don't necessarily know how to protect themselves. They don't necessarily know how to keep themselves safe. And in the other piece of that, right? For them, it's a tool, right? It's like a television. It's like the refrigerator. You just use it. And so until you show them how it works and that, you put something out there and it's there forever, and, those kinds of things, they just don't know about that kind of stuff. So they're using it, but they don't necessarily know how to safely do that.
Yeah, I'm just amazed sometimes what I see people sharing. I guess that's just not my generation or my inclination to share every blessed thing about my life online. Uh, and it's something. But yeah, certainly that can be an issue because they may think it's really cool to share naughty pictures with each other, and it's not really. It's
No.
against the law, right?
Right, right. But they just aren't aware, right? And so we really have to work with them. I am been very fortunate that we're working with a lot of school districts across the state. People are really hungry for the information. So that part's really exciting. They are actually asking for it. When I first started in 2015 on this, I kind of had to explain to them what some of this stuff is. After a year of being online school, they get it, right? Because they've got to see even, just even, things going on in the background while they're teaching kids, right? And things like that. They weren't aware of all of that stuff. And now they're starting to pay attention to, oh, this is being broadcast to a whole bunch of people. And, I heard my granddaughter once say she was taking a picture and she said, oh, maybe I'll be famous. And it's like, or infamous, I mean,
Or notorious, or
uh,
yes.
you really have to make sure they understand. And then I'm really excited about the Cyber Patriot program. This year they have a new program and a couple of new programs actually, which are really helping me. One is they have a new demo. So one of my thing that's really difficult that is to be able to show people how this competition works, right? Because it's computer stuff, It's like, you see it on TV and they go click, click, click on their keyboard and suddenly I just hacked somebody. And it's like, yeah, well, we didn't see anything. We saw you clicking on a keyboard. So now this demo, I can actually, and anyone who wants to have it can download it from the AFA website and they can actually see what the competition looks like and feel what it feels like. They can play it. They can see. And so that's a really cool thing that we've got now added to our thing. And then the other thing, they've had a program called Cyber Generations. And again, that's for we have to be careful how we talk about that, but our senior citizens and folks that maybe don't know as much as they should about, they also are trying to use this stuff as keeping track with their family and, keeping in touch, but they don't necessarily know how to protect themselves. So they've had this Cyber Generations program up for a while, but what they've done now is they've added it. They've added a level that I think will help keep it moving, where they have tech caregivers, is what they call it, certifications. So you can go in, you can learn all the materials, you can take a test, and then you then can become a teacher for senior citizens. So you can then go to senior citizen homes and you can start letting people know, what's good behavior, what's not good behavior, how to keep yourself safe as a senior citizen, right? So if they're doing their banking or if they're, visiting with their family, they know that, how to keep themselves safe. And so I was real excited that they came up with that. And so it's one of the things I'm looking forward to. But I'd love to tell you that I about my new opportunity in, in general with my, sort of, paying gig, right? So the
Well, I was
cyber
going to ask you, gosh, I've heard you have a new job. Tell me
I
all about
have.
that.
So, Cyber Patriot Piece is an all volunteer kind of thing, and it's a charity that I work for, and I just love it, right? And I'm not leaving that at all. That'll still be my side gig and the thing that I work with and that my heart is in. But I've got a new position, and so I'm going to be working for the Auto Information Sharing Analysis Center, which everyone thinks of as the Auto ISAC. It's a new position that they've just made, and I will be the automotive cybersecurity training leader. So I'm excited about this opportunity. After being with the UDM for 17 years and having several different roles, over that 17 years with them, I'm excited for this new challenge. It's very exciting. Um, Again, like I said, I'm not going to be leaving Cyber Patriot, but I'm going to be able to. It's just as important to the automotive industry that the kids are involved and we get more people in the pipeline. It is to all the industries. So, but I'm excited about this new challenge. Um, I'll be working with all of their cybersecurity training, education, and awareness for the Auto ISAC programs. I'll be doing a lot of committee work, supporting their long-term strategy while addressing current risks. So I'm pretty psyched about this.
Well, certainly with connected vehicles, if you connect a vehicle on the internet or through the data service of your phone or whatever Wi-Fi you're using or anything that connects all that, the bad guys can also connect too, right?
Absolutely, and it's very much in their minds. And the National Transportation, let me see here, the National Highway Safety and Traffic Control Administration. Sorry, I've got that all messed up. So it's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is very important to them as well. And so I'm going to be working on a really big project with them at the Auto ISAC. So yeah, they realize, right, and especially with autonomous vehicles coming on board and all the other kind of things right now, we have hundreds of different components that are speaking to each other, via internet, via the CAN bus. I mean, all of that stuff is all in there, and so yeah, the auto industry is very cognizant of the fact that cybersecurity is really, really important for them.
Yeah, and it seems like the very best people in cybersecurity are the black hats, the bad people who are doing it for the money. And there's a lot of money to be made. Look at just the ransomware attacks alone, right?
Right.
So, in fact, that was the thesis of Richard Marr's book in 2011, that the whole idea was that they hired the best, and the best were working for the bad people. So,
Right.
yeah, they're very sophisticated. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for you.
Well, I mean, and that's why I'm hoping that, bringing all of my education background, right, and starting with the starting with the kids, working them through the system, having them go to the colleges, having them go to universities, getting their doctorates. We're actually training a whole bunch of, more, like you said, new generations, right, to do this differently and to do it right, and to be, hopefully we're baking in, integrity and honesty and ethics and, social, morals and things like that right now, right? Rather than having to take those people who are doing bad things and just give them more money to not do the bad things.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can have generations now that are coming out and they're aware of all of this and they know that it's wrong. And that they know that people in their own family have been victimized and things are not, that that's just not the way to do it. That you want to be a part of the people who are protecting rather than the folks that are the bad guys.
Yeah, and certainly going into cybersecurity is very lucrative. I mean, some of these kids start out making $100,000 a year after they get all their various college level certifications. So, I mean, that's something to really take a look at. If and everybody around the world is desperate to get these people hired because it's such a hot area, right?
Absolutely. Like you were saying, like, there's always 450,000 jobs open in the United States alone. That's just the United States, right? And so that's a lot of open jobs, that need to be filled. And right, you're right, so the sky is the limit on your salaries, right? Depending on how many, certs you have, how much education you have, how much experience you have. You really can write your own ticket. So yes, it's very good. I mean, and when you're talking to middle school and high school kids about this career field, this is not a hard sell, right? I just have to make sure that they understand in a holistic way that it's not just ones and zeros. It's not just comp sci. It's not just, coding and that kind of thing. That there's a whole gamut of jobs that are cybersecurity jobs. But the things that are very all across are things like, do you have a good record? Have you done bad stuff in the before, right? Did you overshare when you were a kid on Facebook and show yourself with gang signs and 40s and doing all kinds of goofy things that were not appropriate? Were you bullying some people? And then there's records of that and all that kind of good stuff. So these are all important things for kids to know early on, right?
Yeah, once you get something on the internet, it's always on the internet.
Correct. And we're seeing that in so many other levels now. Things that are coming up from people when they were crazy people in college doing stupid stuff, and now that's being brought into their adult career, right? They may have been in the field for 20, 30 years, and suddenly something comes up from their past. And so, yeah, these kids are on 24/7. So
Yeah.
you better believe they're doing some embarrassing things that when they look back as adults, they're not going to be too happy about that they overshared.
Yeah, well, some studies have shown that I've read actually say that the human brain doesn't fully develop until you're 24, 25. And having been a young person myself and seeing what these young people are doing, I can pretty much believe that. So
Yeah. But they've got different tools than we did, right? We went outside, we hung out, right? These guys have the world, the globe, right at their fingertips, and
yeah.
so they can get into some, sticky situations. And I'm hoping that all the work that we're all doing together will make sure that that doesn't happen.
All right, we're going to leave it at that note now. And of course, you're always looking for folks to work with you at
Absolutely.
Cyber Patriot. I want to talk a little bit about that real quick before we sign off. Go ahead.
Sure, I'm always looking for professionals, right? So that's why I'm loving the fact that I'm on Mike's show here. We always need professionals to help be mentors, right? This doesn't mean that you have to completely wrangle these kids on these teams, but we really need your professionalism to be able to come down and help the teachers. And so if you could go to our website, www.micyberpatriot.com, and let me know that you'd like to volunteer. This is a national program. It goes from November until April, and it's all virtual, so you could be virtual as well too, but you could be helping us with this fight against keeping kids safe and educated in this space.
All right, it's Tamara Shoemaker, still with the Cyber Patriot program, formerly with the University of Detroit Mercy, now has a new job with Auto ISAC. So good luck on your new position.
Thank you so much, Mike. You take care.
You're welcome. All right, well, that's pretty much it for the show today. Matt had to deal with some federal and state people that were going to LTU to look at what they were doing with bridge construction and things like that. Hopefully, Matt will be joining us again next Monday when we'll be back again at 2 o'clock with MITech TV, and I hope you'll be joining us too. Thanks very much, and this is Mike Brennan with MITechNews.com saying have a great week.